Good evening, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Wanted to start out with the very beginning of the U.S. Code tonight, because it's going to talk about words denoting number, gender, and so forth. Words denoting number, gender, and so forth. And when we look at the United States Code and how it's constructed, if you just punch in U.S. Code into your search engine, you come up with U.S. Code, and it'll say Table of Contents, and then it'll show you Title I, General Provisions. When you click on General Provisions there, it comes up with Chapter 1. So we're looking at U.S. Code, Title I, Chapter 1. And it says Rules of Construction under General Provisions. Words denoting number, gender, and so forth. And when we read this, it says, in determining the meaning of any act. Remember, that's act. Act is relative to a commercial performance. Men behave, persons are acting, are actors. And we'll get on into that here in a minute. In determining the meaning of any act of Congress, unless the context indicates otherwise, words importing the singular include and apply to several persons, parties, or things. Words importing the plural include the singular. Words used or importing the masculine gender include the feminine as well. Words used in the present tense include the future tense as well as the present. And before we go any further, I want to talk to everybody about this commercial system, which is dependent upon the future. Dependent upon the future because its profits are determined by inflation rates, interest rates, projections, things like that. What ifs? Because they're not discernible at this time in truth, but only presentable as plausible in the future. Okay? So let's think about that when we're talking about words used in the present tense, include the future tense as well as the present. We're talking about commercial items again. Okay? Then the next part says, and this is an interesting one, the words insane and insane person shall include every idiot, insane person, and person non compos mentis. Okay? And when we talk about maxims of law, we talk about, here we're going to discuss a parity, something of like kind. Okay? Because oil and water do not mix. As a maximum law, things that do not mix just do not mix. Fiction does not mix with reality, and reality does not mix with fiction. And so when we're talking about insane person and person non compos mentis, in regards to idiot, idiot is also a person. In other words, a fictional construct. So the words insane and insane person shall include every idiot. And when we look up idiot in Black's Law Dictionary, we're looking at 4th edition. That's the one I use. Black's Law 4th. It says idiot on page 880. A person. Therefore, it is a like kind with the other persons mentioned. Okay? Who has been without understanding from his nativity, and whom the law therefore presumes never likely to attain any. A presumption of never likely to attain anything is something of a future tense rather than a present tense. So let's make sure we comprehend that. So we know that insane and insane person shall include. And when we talk about the word include, it means only what follows. Shall include every idiot, insane person, and person non compos mentis. Okay? Then the next one says the word person and whoever include corporations, companies, associations, firms, partnerships, societies, and joint stock companies, as well as individuals. So again, with the maxim of law, like kind with like kind. So individuals is a person, and a person being a fictional construct. In this use, individual is a fictional construct because it's used in regards to the commercial system and not a real live being singular rather than individual. Okay? And that's all I'm going to read for this section, because the next thing I'm going to look at, we discussed idiot in Black's Law, and now we're going to discuss person. And when we talk about person, we're going to the etymology of person. And what I've got here is the word person was derived from the Latin word persona, which means a mask worn by actors playing different roles in a drama. Okay? And until the 6th century, the word was used to denote a part played by a man in life. A part played by a man in life. I ain't playing no more. Got it? Thereafter, it began to be used in a sense of a living being, capable of having rights and duties. Rights and duties rather than privileges and immunities of persons. Okay? Rights and duties. We don't have immunities as live beings. We are already subject to nature. We are not immune to that, and that is the law. In law, person does not merely represent human beings, but also gods, angels, idols, and corporations, etc. And again, parity, sameness, like kind, corporations, as seen in the U.S. Code, or actually, I think it was Black's Law. Black's Law is the one. Let me find this one here in Black's Law for person. Excuse me if I blind you with that light behind me. Okay. Person. And this is a long section on person, but I'm only going to read the first part because it goes in. It coincides with this the etymology. A man considered according to the rank he holds in society. The rank he holds in society. And when we talk about ranks, we talk about upper and lower. In reality, all men are equal. They are of like kind. Comprehend? Okay. With all the right to which the place he holds entitles him, and the duties which it imposes. Okay. What I want to talk to you about here is in regards to the rights which the place he holds entitles him. When we're born, and we have no way of making fair exchanges with our fellow man, and we're forced to use a commercial system which is dependent upon future rather than present, we're considering the possibility that something could go wrong in the future. And when something goes wrong, if it's detrimental, something has to be liable. There has to be some liability somewhere. However, in this commercial system that's all a fictional construct, there can't be any liability because debt has already been paid. Like I said in my earlier video, Jesus died on the cross for our forgiveness, to forgive us our sins. Okay? And when it comes to the entitlement, when we're born, that's the birth certificate that the United States bestows upon us so that we can operate in that commercial system. However, they do so without educating us on the proper way to do that. And so when it says a man considered according to the rank he holds in society, with all the right to which the place he holds entitles him, and the duties which it imposes upon him. In a ranking society, the duties are what's known as an obligation, and in that sense, that obligation is commercial and not actually inherent or anything, because I have no duty to my fellow man other than to love him. So long as I love my neighbor as myself, then I'm following the law. Comprehend that. So back to this person in the etymology. It says, further, there may be human beings such as slaves, etc., who are not treated as persons in law because they are not capable of having rights and duties. They're not capable of having rights and duties. They're capable of having rights, but a slave is not capable of having, quote, duties as a commercial obligation. They only have duties assigned to them by their slave master. Who's the slave master? The one that professes authority over him. Okay? A man considered according to the rank he holds in society, with all the right to which the place he holds entitles him, and the duties which it imposes. And this is People versus R Company, 134, New York, I assume New York, it's abbreviated, 50631NE 873. A man considered, and this is verbatim to what I just read in the Black's Law. So the Black's Law actually goes by the United States case law. And when we look at United States case law, it pertains to United States. Okay? Well, in the United States, and as I read here earlier, until the 6th century, the word was used to denote the part played by a man in life. Thereafter, it began to be used in the sense of a living being capable of having rights and duties. Okay? So until the 6th century, we knew what a person was in the proper sense of it being separate from ourselves. From that time on, they started, just like the Bible, they started changing the words. And every so often they keep changing the words until we're at today, where we're trying to figure it all out. Well, this is it. When we look at the 14th Amendment now, the 14th Amendment addresses many aspects on the rights of citizens. And when we talk about rights of citizens, those rights are something bestowed upon them through a rank, an office, a duty, an obligation, because they've subscribed or subjected themselves to the power that gives them those rights. But those are really not rights. They're just privileges of being under that particular association. And so when we talk about citizens of the United States, we're not talking about rights. We're actually talking about privileges. Privileges and immunities, which are exemplified in the 14th Amendment, that provide equal protection of the laws. Now, when we talk about equal protection of the laws, we're talking about all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. And here the state is not capitalized. No state, again not capitalized, shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Okay? So when we talk about equal protection of the laws, I have just as much right of equal protection of the laws as any citizen has a privilege or immunity. Matter of fact, I have a grander scale of rights. See, I did a video here last year or so about quit whining about your rights. You don't have rights. You have responsibilities. You have duties. So when we talk about our rights, we're talking about rights and duties. They're the same thing in my opinion. I have a right to love my brother as myself, as a duty to myself, in expectation of wanting my brother to respect and love me. I have to love him. And in that same sense, I have to provide him equal protection, and therefore it's my duty to stand up for him, with him, beside him, in what is right. And so when we talk about the 14th Amendment, we're again talking about persons. All persons. Today's day and age, the word persons has been bestowed upon us without our knowledge of what that person actually is or how to operate it. Therefore, by automatic operation of law, we have immunities as people for both our person and ourselves. Period. Plain and simple. And we see this in the Fifth Amendment. Let me pull that up here so I can read it verbatim. The Fifth Amendment states, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury. No person. None. Shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime. I think that's the wrong one. I think I meant the Fourth Amendment. Fourth Amendment is the one that secures $. Fourth Amendment, I guess, is the one that secures our right to be secure in our persons. The right of the people to be secure in their persons. So when we're talking about in their persons, the word person was derived from the Latin word persona, which means a mask. So we have a right to be secure in our mask while we're performing commerce. We have a right to be secure in our person who has privileges and immunities. Plain and simple. And when we talk, I want to go back to that word insane now, because this is the crux of every person. Come on. The crux of every person is the insane. I wish I had a quick go-to here. And if you guys ever look up insanity in one of these Black's Law dictionaries or something, it's an extensive, pages-long thing on insanity. Don't let it drive you insane, because it's all BS. And I'm going to show you here. Insane. Remember we were talking about insane and insane persons? Unsound in mind. Of unsound mind. Can a person speak? Nope, they can't make a sound. Unsound mind. Because they have no mind. It's our mind that has to cooperate. It's our mind who has to reject. It's our mind who has to subject or subscribe. Things like that. So we have to realize the difference between the person and ourselves. And the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects shall against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Nowhere does it give any authority to seize a live man. Nowhere. None. Comprehend this stuff, people. So while we have the right of the people to be secure in their persons, there's the distinct difference between the two. It shows that they are not of like kind. The people are not corporations. The people are not subject to corporations. Their activities within corporate performances is subject to contractual behavior or contractual actions. But we still have privileges and immunities of those, because we are people who are not perfect. Once we find an error, we can correct the record. And this is the part we need to correct. We need to correct our personage. Like I explained in my earlier video, when we come forth and present the proper information to correct the record, they can no longer assume, presume, or imply. It's on the record. You recognize it. They recognize it. We now have two like-kind recognizance. And it states it right here, unambiguously through many different statements, through many different sources. So think about this stuff, people, and realize you are not the person. When they talk about the singular being the plural, and the plural being the singular, and the gender being man, includes the female, the woman, and the woman includes the man, all this stuff, none of it includes myself in regards to persons, period. I'm not subject to those laws. I'm subject to natural law, which is inherently a duty of my wealth or my health and well-being. And I have a duty, the same in loving my brother as myself, to have a concern for their health and well-being. And that's why I do this stuff, guys. I have no reason to perform commercially unless I wish to do so. And no one can enforce that. No one can impose that. No one can just blatantly stop me along my way simply because they want to. That's a tortious action in any sense. So I urge you people to really think about this stuff. And remember, again, if it weren't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. God bless you all. I love you. Have a great night. Bye-bye.